Amma, do not fear.
The young servant girl dropped her tray in the palace courtyard. Herb spilled across the red clay floor as she stared at the brilliant green parrot beside her. But this was no ordinary bird. It wore the face of a queen. Calm, sad, and watching like someone who had returned with a mission. "Do not fear," the parrot whispered in her mind. "Your chief is being poisoned." And just like that, Amma was pulled into a secret that could tear Lumora apart because a greedy new wife had entered this palace wearing beauty like a crown and death in her sleeve. Night after night, Selma poured palm wine with a sweet smile. Night after night, Chief Damba drank and grew weaker. Everyone called it old age except Prince Kamso. What Kamso didn't know was worse. Soma had a ruthless lover in the shadows and a plan to open the spirit-sealed treasury when the chief died. But the one who saw the truth was already dead. She returned as a parrot to expose betrayal, save the chief before the seventh moon, and stop greed from swallowing Lumora. If you're watching from anywhere in the world, drop your country in the comments, then like, share, and subscribe for more mythic African folktales with twists you won't see coming. The kingdom of Lumora sat beside the wide blue sea. Every morning, the sun rose like a big orange ball over the water. Fishermen pulled their nets and sang to the waves. Women in bright wrappers sold smoked fish, salt, and sweet mangoes in the market near the palace gates. Palm trees bent gently when the sea wind blew. The air always smelled of salt, firewood, and ripe fruit. On a hill close to the shore stood the palace of Lumora. It was made from red clay, warm and strong. The walls looked like they were painted by the sunset. Tall towers watched over the kingdom, and wide stairs led up to heavy wooden doors carved with old symbols. Inside were courtyards filled with flowers, clay pots, and the sound of drums when festivals came. Chief Damba ruled Lumora from this palace. Everyone knew Chief Damba. He was tall and broad, with deep brown skin that looked like polished wood. His eyes were calm and sharp, the kind of eyes that noticed everything but did not rush to speak. His hair was close-cropped, black with gray like sea foam at the edge of night. He wore fine robes when he sat in council, and he held a carved staff that showed he was chief. People loved him because he was fair. When two fishermen fought over a boat, Damba listened to both. When farmers argued about land, Damba walked the fields himself. When a widow cried because her roof fell in, Damba sent men to fix it and gave her food from the palace store. But people also feared him, not because he was cruel, but because his mind was strong. He could see trouble before it grew. He could hear lies even when they were dressed in sweet words. Elders said, Chief Damba is like the ocean, calm on top, but very deep. But even deep oceans can become quiet and cold. Years ago, Chief Damba's first wife, Nakanya, had died. No one forgot her. Nakanya had been gentle, brave, and wise. She laughed easily and made the palace feel alive. When she walked through the courtyards, servants smiled, children ran after her, even the guards softened around her. She was the kind of queen who spoke to the poorest woman in the market like a sister. She also had one child, a son, named Kamso. Prince Kamso was now a young man, but he still missed his mother as if she had died yesterday. Sometimes he sat in her old garden, where she used to plant small blue flowers. Sometimes he stood beside the sea at night, staring at the waves and thinking about her voice. Kamso had his father's warm brown skin and his mother's calm eyes. He was medium tall and strong, but not loud. His voice was soft, yet people listened when he spoke. He was known in the palace as the prince who asked questions, the prince who watched quietly, the prince who cared about the truth. After Nekonya died, the palace changed. The drums still played on festival days, but the spaces between the beats felt longer. The courtyards were still clean and beautiful, but laughter did not bounce off the walls the way it used to. Even Chief Damba's steps sounded heavier. Many elders begged him to marry again. At first, Damba refused. "My heart is still full of Nekonya. I do not want another woman to sit in her place." But time is a slow river. It keeps moving whether your heart is ready or not. After many seasons, and after many quiet nights, Damba agreed. And so Selma came into the palace. Selma arrived on a bright day when the sea wind was gentle. People filled the palace gates to see her. She rode in a fine wooden carriage decorated with shells and gold paint. When she stepped out, the crowd went silent. She was breathtaking. Her skin was golden brown and smooth. Her eyes were shaped like almonds, dark and shining. Her cheeks were high and her lips were soft and full. Her hair was long black braids, glossy and neat, gathered into a beautiful palace style with beads that caught the sunlight. She wore an emerald and gold gown that flowed like water as she walked. Gold bangles chimed on her wrists. A soft perfume followed her, sweet as honey. She bowed to the elders and spoke in a voice that sounded like a song. "Lumora is blessed," she said. "To stand before such a great chief is a gift. To serve this kingdom is an honor." The elders nodded. The women whispered she was a true jewel. The servants stared, half in awe, half in hope that warmth might return to the palace. Chief Damba watched her and smiled for the first time in a long while. "You are welcome, Selma," he said. "May you find peace here." Selma smiled back, and her teeth were white like fresh coconut. "I will bring light to this house," she promised. Prince Kamso stood beside his father. He bowed respectfully. "Welcome, Mother Selma," he said. Selma turned to him, her smile sweet. "And you must become so. Your father speaks of you like the rising sun. I hope you will see me as a true mother." Kamso nodded. "I will honor you." But as he looked into her eyes, something inside him tightened. He could not explain it. Her smile was bright, yet it did not reach her eyes. Her voice was warm, yet her gaze was cold as shell-white sand at dawn. Kamso said nothing. A prince must respect his father's choice. The wedding was grand. Drums thundered, dancers spun, the sea itself seemed to clap as waves hit the shore. For a while, the palace felt alive again. Selma laughed with the elders, fed children sweet cakes, and poured palm wine for the guards. Everyone thought, she is good, she will heal this house. But inside Selma's heart lived a hunger. That hunger had a name, gold. That hunger also had a face, Baruka. Baruka was not a man of the palace. He was a mercenary, a fighter who sold his strength to the highest bidder. Some said he had traveled through many kingdoms, crossing forests, deserts, and rivers. His skin was deep brown and scarred by old battles. His eyes were narrow and hard. A thin scar ran across his cheek, and his mouth almost never smiled. 3 nights after the wedding, Selma slipped quietly from her chamber when the palace slept. She moved like a shadow through the corridors. She knew which guards looked away at which corners. She knew which doors creaked and which ones opened softly. She turned into a narrow passage behind the palace kitchens, then into a small courtyard hidden by tall walls. Baruka waited there. He leaned against the wall like a panther resting before a hunt. Selma ran into his arms without fear. "You are late," Baruka murmured. Selma touched his face. "I had to smile for them," she whispered. "Let them believe I am their gentle jewel." Baruka's eyes glittered. "And the chief?" he asked. Selma's smile changed. It became sharp. "He trusts me completely," she said. "He thinks my love is pure." Baruka snorted softly. "Men like him are easy to lead when they are lonely." Selma leaned closer. "Soon he will be more than lonely," she said. Baruka's brow lifted. "You said you had a plan." Selma nodded and pulled a small folded map from her waist beads. She opened it on the ground. The moonlight shone on the lines she had drawn. "This is the palace," she said, pointing. "This is the old stair behind the shrine. This is the tunnel under the west courtyard. And here," she tapped a heavy circle, "is the treasury." Baruka whistled low. "The vault." Selma's eyes gleamed. Yes, the underground vault of Lumora. Gold, cowries, coral jewels, old royal masts, carved ivory, and treasures from trade ships. Enough wealth to buy 10 kingdoms. Baruka looked impressed, but he still frowned. "Why hasn't anyone stolen it before?" he asked. Selma lifted her chin. "It is sealed with spiritual wards," she said. Baruka laughed once, short and rough. "Wards, spirits. Selma, you sound like a child." Selma's voice grew colder. "It is not a story. The elders say the vault is tied to the chief's life force. It will not open unless his spirit releases it." Baruka's smile faded. "So if he lives, the vault stays shut." Selma nodded slowly. "And if he dies," she whispered, "the lock breaks." Baruka stepped closer, his shadow falling over her. "What are you saying?" Selma did not blink. "I am saying Chief Damba must die." The words hung in the air like smoke. For a moment, the sea wind went silent. Even the palms seemed to stop moving. Then Baruka's mouth curved into a hard smile. "How?" he asked. Selma reached into a small cloth pouch and pulled out a tiny, dark bottle. "Poison," she said simply. "Slow, quiet, like a snake's bite that no one sees." Baruka stared at the bottle. "You are sure?" Selma's eyes flashed. "I did not come here to be a chief's ornament. I came to take what I deserve." Baruka nodded slowly, then leaned down and kissed her forehead like a promise. "Do it," he said. "When the vault opens, we sail away. The sea will hide us." Selma smiled again, soft on the outside, sharp underneath. "It begins tonight," she said. That night, Selma sat with Chief Damba on a wide veranda that faced the sea. The sky was deep blue, filled with stars like scattered salt. The air was cool. Oil lamps glowed gently. Selma poured palm wine into a carved cup. "Drink, my husband," she said. "It will warm your bones after your long counsel." Chief Damba smiled. You care for me well," he said. He lifted the cup. Selma watched his fingers wrap around it. She watched the wine touch his lips. He drank. She looked away only when his throat swallowed. Later, when Damba went to bed, he felt a small ache in his chest. He coughed, once, then twice. He frowned but said nothing. Chiefs were not meant to complain about small pains. The next morning, Damba rose for counsel as usual, but his steps were slower. His eyes looked tired. Kamso noticed. "Father, you did not sleep well?" he asked. Damba waves a hand. "I'm fine. The sea air is cold, that is all." Selma placed a hand on Damba's shoulder and sighed. "The chief works too hard," she said sweetly. "He carries a whole kingdom. He must rest more." Kemso looked at her. Her voice was sweet, but the way her fingers pressed into his father's shoulder seemed intense. Still, he said nothing. Night came again. Selma poured wine again. Another drop of poison slid into the cup, like a secret. Damba drank. Days passed. Nights passed. Each night, Selma smiled and poured. Each night, Damba drank and grew weaker. His appetite faded. His laughter became rare. His hands shook slightly when he held his staff. The palace healer, an old man named Solly, approached him carefully. "My chief," Solly said, bowing low, "my eyes are dull and your breath is thin. Let me check your body." Chief Damba lifted his chin. "I am only tired," he said. "Council meetings have been heavy." Solly tried again. "Even strong trees need water," he said softly. Damba smiled faintly. "I will rest soon," he promised. Kemso watched this, with worry building inside him like a storm cloud. He began to follow his father more closely. He noticed that Damba always worsened after Selma's evening wine. He noticed Selma always watched her husband drink before she drank herself. She never left his side until his cup was empty. On the fourth night, Kemso sat with Selma after his father had gone to bed. The lamps were low. Selma's face was calm. "Mother Selma," Kemso began gently, "forgive me if I sound rude, but father has been sick for days. What has he been eating? Has he taken strange herbs?" Selma gasped softly, like someone stabbed with words. "Kemso," she said, placing her hand against her chest, "do you think I would harm the chief? Do you think I came into this palace to bring darkness?" Her eyes filled with tears that shone like dew. "I love him. I have prayed for him. I have even burned sweet herbs for his health." Kemso felt shame prick his heart. "I did not mean to accuse you," he said quickly. "I'm sorry." Selma wiped a tear, then smiled. "You are a good son. You worry because you love him. That is not a sin." Kemso bowed his head. But when he stood to leave, he noticed something small. Selma's tears had dried too fast. He turned that thought in his mind all night. That same night, Kemso walked alone to his mother's old shrine. It was a quiet courtyard behind the west wing, where Nikonya used to sit and sing while she braided his hair as a boy. The shrine had a small clay altar, a carved wooden bowl, and a faded cloth with Nikunya's favorite colors. Kemso knelt and placed his forehead on the cool ground. "Mother Nikunya," he whispered, "if you can still hear me, please look at father. He is not well. Something feels wrong in this house." The sea wind rose suddenly, brushing through the courtyard like invisible fingers. One of the shrine candles flickered, even though there was no hand near it. Kemso lifted his head. His skin tingled. "Mother?" he breathed. But there was only wind and silence. Still, Kemso felt less alone than before, as if someone had listened. Far away in a place where eyes cannot see, Nikonya did listen. Her spirit stood on the edge of the living world, watching the palace she loved. She watched Selma pour poison. She watched Damba weaken. She watched Kemso grow afraid. She watched Amma, the young servant girl, carry trays through corridors without knowing death walked behind sweet smiles. Nikunya's spirit trembled with sorrow and anger. I cannot stay here and watch, she whispered to the darkness around her. Not while my family falls. Spirits are not meant to cross back easily. The path is guarded by old laws. But love is a force even spirits respect. Nikonya reached for the strongest memory she had, the day Kamsa was born, the way Damba smiled when he held his son, the day she walked the markets promising the people safety, the warm smell of palm wine shared with laughter. That love became a bridge. Under the full moon of the sixth night, a flash of green gold light cut through the air above the sea. It rolled like a wave, then folded into wings. A brilliant green parrot flew toward the red clay palace of Lamora. Its feathers shone like fresh leaves after rain. Its eyes were wise and sad, the eyes of a queen who had seen both love and death. It beat its wings against the night sky, carrying a warning from the world beyond. And below, inside the palace, Selma whispered to Baruka in the hidden courtyard. "One more night," she said. "Tomorrow is the final dose." Baruka nodded, his smile dark. "Then the vault is ours." Selma looked up at the moon, unaware that something was watching her from the sky. The parrot circled once above the palace roof, silent and glowing faintly in the moonlight. Then it dipped lower, heading toward the servants' courtyard where Amma slept. The sixth night was almost over. The seventh day was coming, and Lumora stood on the edge of a secret that could save it or break it forever. Morning came with a cool sea breeze. The palace of Lamora woke slowly, like a giant red clay lion stretching after sleep. Servants swept courtyards, guards changed shifts. The smell of charcoal fires and boiling yam porridge drifted through the air. Amma woke early, as she always did. Amma was a young servant girl from a small village near Lamora. Her skin was deep warm brown, her eyes wide and kind, and her black braids were always neat. She moved quietly through the palace like a gentle shadow, carrying water, folding cloth, and helping the older women. Everyone trusted her because she was honest and because her heart was soft like fresh dough. That morning, Amma carried a tray of herbs to the kitchen courtyard. She yawned a little, rubbing her eyes. Then she heard a sound. Kwa! Kwa! Amma stopped. It was not the normal loud parrot sound that birds made in the market. This was low, steady, and close. She turned slowly. There, on the clay wall above the courtyard, perched a brilliant green parrot. Its feathers shone like new leaves after rain. The tips of its wings looked as if someone had brushed them with gold. Its eyes were calm and deep. It did not hop around like a restless bird. It sat still, watching Amma as if it knew her. Amma blinked. "Eh? A parrot?" she whispered. "How did you enter the palace?" The parrot tilted its head. Amma took a careful step closer. "Are you lost? Did you fly from the market?" The parrot opened its beak, and Amma froze. Because the voice that came out was not a bird's voice. It was a woman's voice, soft, clear, like a whisper inside Amma's own head. "Amma." Amma's tray slipped from her hands. The herbs scattered on the ground. Amma clutched her chest. "Ah, who is there?" she cried, looking around. "Who is talking?" The parrots looked straight at her. "Amma, do not fear." Amma's knees went weak. She fell to the ground. "The spirits? Is this a dream?" The parrot hopped down to a low stool and came closer. Its eyes were sad, not angry. "I'm not here to harm you. I am here because Lumora is in danger." Amma shook her head hard. "No, no, Birds do not speak like humans. This is not real. The parrot flew lightly onto the clay floor in front of her. Amma, it said again, listen to me. I am Nkonya. Amma's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Nkonya? The chief's first wife? The queen who died years ago? Amma had never met Nkonya, but she had heard stories. Every servant in the palace knew her name. They spoke of her with respect, like a warm fire that had gone out too soon. Amma stared at the parrot like she was looking at a ghost. Nkonya, my queen? She whispered. Yes, the parrot replied. Amma's hand shook. How? Why? Why are you in a bird? Because I cannot come in my human body anymore. The spirit world does not allow that. But love can make a path, even when laws are strong. Amma felt dizzy. She wanted to run away, but when she looked at the parrot's eyes, something in her heart settled. Those eyes were old and wise. They were not playing. Amma swallowed. If you are truly Nkonya, tell me something only you know. The parrot nodded. Kamso had a scar on his ankle when he was 7. He got it when he chased a crab at the sea and fell on sharp shells. He cried so much that Damba ran into the water fully dressed. I laughed and called Kamso Little Storm. I sang him to sleep that night. Amma's breath caught. She did not know that story. No servant had ever said it. The parrot spoke with the sound of memory. Amma's eyes filled with tears. It is you, she whispered. Then fear rushed back into her. My queen, why are you here? What danger? The parrot's feathers ruffled slightly, like wind touching leaves. The new wife, it said. Selma. She is poisoning Chief Damba. Amma gasped. No, my queen. Selma is kind. She feeds the poor. She smiles at the elders. Her smile is a mask, the parrot said. Her heart is hungry. Amma's head spun. How do you know? Because I have watched, the parrot said. Every night she slips venom into his palm wine. The poison is slow, so no one suspects. Damba is fading. Amma remembered the chief's tired face, his shaking hands, his cough. A cold fear squeezed her stomach. Ah, Amma whispered. It is true. He has been getting worse. The parrot leaned closer. There is more, it said. The underground vault in this palace is sealed by spirit wards tied to Dumba's life force. Selma knows this. She has a secret lover named Baruka. They plan to flee with the treasure when Dumba dies. Amma covered her mouth. Baruka? She breathed. The strange man I saw near the west corridor? Yes. Amma trembled. My queen, what do I do? I am only a servant. If I accuse Selma, no one will believe me. She is the chief's wife. She is beautiful. She has power. The parrot's voice softened. Amma, truth does not need a throne to stand tall. Amma cried quietly. But I might die. The parrot nodded slowly, as if it already knew. Courage is not being without fear, it said. Courage is walking even when fear bites your feet. Amma wiped her tears with the back of her hand. When must we stop her? Before moonrise on the 7th day. Tonight is the 6th night. Tomorrow is the 7th. If she gives him the final dose tomorrow night, he will die before dawn. You must act before then. Amma's throat felt dry. Tonight is the 6th night, she whispered. Her mind raced. She thought of stepping into the court and pointing at Selma. She imagined elders laughing at her. She imagined guards dragging her away. Then she thought of Chief Damba dying. She thought of Prince Kamso's face if his father fell. And something else rose in her heart like a quiet flame. Amma revered Prince Kamso. Kamso had once defended her when an older servant tried to blame her for a broken bowl. He had said, "Speak the truth. Do not fear." He had a gentle kindness that made Amma feel safe. Amma knew she cared for him more than she should. Her cheeks reddened just thinking about him. "My queen," Amma whispered, "if I speak this truth, Kamso will be hurt. He trusts Selma as his father's wife. If he hears she is evil, his heart will break." The parrot looked gently at her. "Better a broken heart than a dead father," it said. Amma bowed her head. "Yes, my queen." The parrot hopped toward the palace corridor. "Come," it said, "I will show you where to listen." Amma took a deep breath and followed. They moved through the palace quietly. The parrot flew low, landing on pots and beams, guiding Amma like a small green torch. They reached Selma's wing. The air smelled of fine oils and sweet perfume. Guards stood at a distance, relaxed, because Selma always greeted them warmly. Amma flattened herself beside a carved doorway, barely breathing. The parrot perched on a high beam near her, silent. Inside Selma's chamber, a soft lamp glowed. Amma heard Selma's voice first, light and smooth. "Tomorrow night we finish it," Selma said. Amma's heartbeat thudded in her ears. Another voice replied, rough and low, "Baruka." "You are sure the wards break when he dies?" Baruka asked. "Yes," Selma snapped. "I saw the old records in the shrine room. The vault obeys the chief's spirit. When his breath stops, the lock loosens." "And the guards?" Selma laughed softly. "The palace guards sleep like goats after wine. Dumba trusts me. Kamso thinks me a mother. No one watches a smiling woman." Baruka grunted. "And after the vault opens? We take what we can carry. Gold, coral jewels, old masks. Then we go through the sea tunnel behind the west rocks. A boat is waiting." Baruka's voice grew hungry. "We will live like kings." Selma's voice turned icy. "We will not live like kings. We will live like gods." Amma clamped a hand over her mouth to stop herself from gasping. The parrot's claws tightened on the beam. Amma listened harder. Selma continued. "Tonight I will give him only a small dose, enough to keep him weak. Tomorrow, when the moon is high, I pour the full venom. He will sleep, and he will not wake." Baruka chuckled. "Good. I am tired of avoiding hallways and hiding in shadows." Selma hissed a warning. "Quiet! If anyone hears—" Baruka laughed even louder. "No servant hears what she does not want to hear." Amma's cheeks burned with anger. She backed away slowly, knees shaking. They returned to the servants' courtyard. Amma's breath came fast. "It is true," she whispered. "All of it." The parrot nodded. "Now we must gather proof. Words alone can be twisted." Amma thought quickly. She needed something real, something a healer or elder could see. She crept into the kitchen store and took a small, clean cloth. Then she went to the veranda where the palm wine was kept. She sniffed the calabash Selma used. The smell was sweet, but beneath it, Amma caught a bitter, sharp scent. Amma dipped the cloth lightly into the inside rim, then wrapped it carefully. She also picked a few healing leaves she knew could fight poison: bitter leaf, black seed, and a small root her grandmother once called life bark. She tucked everything into a small pouch. All the while her hands trembled. When she finished, she found the parrot waiting. "My queen," Amma whispered, "I have cloth from the wine cup and herbs that might help." "Good," the parrot said. "Keep them with you." Amma wanted to run straight to Kemso. She wanted to grab his hand and cry, "Your stepmother is killing your father!" But fear tied her tongue. She remembered Selma's cold eyes behind her sweet smile. She knew Selma was not just a bad woman. Selma had a darkness that felt like a hidden knife. So Amma waited. That afternoon, she moved through the palace pretending everything was normal. But she felt Selma's eyes on her, like a hawk watching a small chick. In the hallway, Selma called softly, "Amma." Amma stopped and bowed. "Yes, my lady." Selma stepped closer, smiling kindly. "You look thin today. Are you well?" Amma forced a small smile. "I am well, my lady." Selma tilted her head. "You have been quiet these days, always walking fast, always looking down. Is something troubling you?" Amma's heart jumped. "No, my lady," she said quickly. "I have only been busy." Selma's smile held, but her eyes sharpened. "Busy with what?" she asked. Amma's mouth went dry. With chores," she stammered. Selma reached out and touched Amma's cheek gently. "Ah, you are a good girl, loyal. But remember, loyalty should be to your queen first." Amma nodded, not trusting her voice. Selma walked away gracefully, the gold bangles on her wrist chiming softly. Amma watched her go, feeling cold sweat on her back. The parrot fluttered onto a beam above Amma. "She suspects you," it whispered. Amma swallowed hard. "What do I do?" "Be careful," the parrot said, "and do not be alone tonight." Evening fell. The palace lamps were lit one by one, like fireflies waking up. Selma prepared palm wine for Chief Damba again. Amma watched from a distance, her pouch hidden under her wrapper. She wanted to shout, to stop Selma's hand. But she waited for the right moment. Chief Damba sat on the veranda, staring at the sea. His face was pale. His shoulders looked heavy. Prince Kamso sat close, worried. Selma walked in with the wine, her steps smooth. "My husband," she said sweetly. "Drink, it will help you rest." Chief Damba smiled weakly. "You are kind to me," he whispered. He lifted the cup with shaking hands. Amma's chest tightened. The parrot perched near the roof, watching. Damba drank. Amma's nails dug into her palm. Kamso leaned forward. "Father," he said softly, "please let healer Sali look at you tonight." Damba waved him off. "My son," he said, "I am a chief. I will not collapse because of small weakness." Kamso's eyes filled with helpless anger. Selma placed a calming hand on Damba's arm. "He is only tired," she said. "Let him sleep." Kamso looked at Selma, but she looked back with warm, innocent eyes. Kamso finally nodded, still uneasy. Night grew deeper. Amma did her best to stay close to the servants' area, where other girls were, but work pulled her into the corridors. She carried bedding to Selma's wing, she carried water to the sick room, she carried oil to lamps. Every step felt like walking on thorns. At last, near midnight, Amma turned toward a narrow corridor leading to the storage rooms. She felt a movement behind her. She turned. Baruka stood there. His face was dark and hard. His eyes were hungry like a wolf's. Amma's throat closed. "Baruka," she whispered. Baruka smiled, without warmth. "You are hard to catch," he said. Amma's throat closed. "Why are you in the palace?" she asked, trying to sound brave. Baruka's hand moved to his belt. "You have seen too much," he said calmly. "My lady does not like loose tongues." Amma spun to run. Baruka lunged. He grabbed her wrist. Amma screamed, "Help! Help!" Baruka clamped a hand over her mouth. "Quiet!" he growled. "If you scream again, your last breath will be loud." Amma kicked hard. Her sandal flew off. She bit his hand. Baruka hissed and raised his other hand. A green blur streaked down from above. The parrot slammed into Baruka's face, clawing and screeching so loud the corridor shook. Gwa! Gwa! Baruka stumbled back, cursing. Amma fell free and ran, crying. The parrot kept attacking, wings beating, beak snapping. Baruka swung his arm wildly, trying to hit it. His struggle made noise. Pots rattled, a lamp fell and shattered. Guards heard. Footsteps thundered. 2 guards appeared at the corridor mouth, spears raised. "What is this?" one shouted. They saw Baruka with a knife half drawn, Amma trembling in the corner, and the parrot screaming above them. Baruka quickly tucked the knife away and lifted his hands. "I was only lost," he lied. "This girl attacked me." Amma gasped. "No, he grabbed me. The guards looked unsure. "Who are you?" the second guard demanded. Baruka bowed quickly. "I am a traveler. I came to deliver a message to the queen." Amma shook her head wildly. "He is lying," she cried. "He came to kill me." The guards grabbed Amma's arms. "Quiet," one snapped. "We will take you to the court. The prince will decide." Amma cried harder. "But my proof! My pouch!" One guard noticed the small pouch tied at her waist. "What is that?" he asked. Amma clutched it. "It is nothing," she said quickly. Baruka's eyes flashed. "Search her," he said coldly. Amma's heart dropped. The guards pulled the pouch away. Before they could open it, the parrot dove again, screaming louder than before. The guards jumped back in shock. "What kind of bird is this?" one guard shouted. Amma trembled, breathless. "Please," she begged, "take me to Prince Kamso. Please, I must speak." The guards exchanged a look. Then they dragged Amma down the corridor toward the court hall, her bare foot slapping the clay floor, her tears falling. The parrot flew above them like a green storm. Outside, the moon hung high in the sky. It was the 6th night, and the 7th day was only a few hours away. The great court hall of Lumora was wide and cool. Its clay walls were carved with old wave patterns, and tall wooden pillars held up a roof painted with stars. At the front sat the chief's throne, shaped like a lion's back. Around it stood elders in long robes, guards with spears, and royal advisors who carried scrolls. On this night, the hall was full. People had been woken from sleep by the noise in the corridor. Word spread fast like bushfire. Amma has been attacked. A strange man was caught inside the palace. A parrot is screaming like a child. So the elders came. The guards came. Even town leaders from the market who were visiting the palace came quickly, still tying their wrappers. Torches burned along the walls. Their light danced on worried faces. Amma was brought in first. Her wrapper was dusty and torn at the knee. One of her sandals was missing, so her left foot was bare and dirty. Her arms hurt where the guards had pulled her. Her eyes were red from crying. Still, she held her head up. Her heart was beating fast, but she kept telling herself, "Speak the truth, Amma, speak the truth." The green parrot flew in behind her and landed on the high beam above the court. Its feathers shone even in the torchlight. It watched the hall like a queen guarding her home. Baruka was dragged in next. 2 guards held his arms tight. His face had fresh scratches from the parrot's claws. His eyes were cold and angry. He said nothing, but he stared at Amma like a knife. Then Selma entered. She walked slowly, calmly, as if the whole court was her garden. She wore a white and gold gown that made her look pure like a new shell. Her braids were perfect. Her bangles looked clean. Her face was soft, sweet, and innocent. People whispered, "See how calm she is. She is a true wife." How could such a woman do evil? Behind Selma walked Chief Damba. But Damba did not walk by himself. 4 strong guards carried him on a wooden chair. His face was pale. His eyes were heavy. His lips looked dry. He had to lean on a cushion to sit upright. Prince Kamso rushed to his father's side. Kamso's jaw was tight. His eyes were hot with fear and anger. He looked from Amma to Selma to Baruka, trying to understand what was happening. Chief Damba raised a weak hand. "What is this noise in my palace?" he asked, his voice tired, but still strong enough to shake the room. "Why have you disturbed the night?" One elder bowed. "My chief, there was trouble in the corridor. The servant Amma was attacked, and a strange man was found inside the palace." Damba frowned. "A strange man?" Selma stepped forward quickly. "Oh, my husband, it is a confusion," she said sadly. "This man says he came to deliver a message, but Amma screamed and accused him. The poor girl may be frightened by shadows." Amma's chest tightened. Selma was already turning the story. Kamso stepped forward. "Father," he said, "Amma is not a liar. She has served this palace with clean hands. Let her speak." Selma turned to Kamso with wide, hurt eyes. "Kams, my son? Do you think I would allow harm in your father's house?" Kamso swallowed. "I don't know what to think," he said honestly. "That is why we must listen." Chief Damba sighed. "Amma," he said, "stand and speak. What happened?" Amma's knees felt shaky, but she stood. She bowed low. "My chief, forgive me for disturbing this court. But I must speak the truth, because your life is in danger." The hall hummed like bees. Soma gasped loudly. "Amma, what are you saying?" Amma looked straight at the chief. "My chief, for many nights you have been drinking palm wine given by Queen Selma. After each wine, your body becomes weaker. Your cough grows. Your hands shake. This is not tiredness. It is poison." People shouted at once. "Poison? Ah, God forbid! A servant dares to accuse a queen!" Selma's mouth opened in shock. She pressed her hand to her chest as if Amma had slapped her. "My husband!" Selma cried. "Do you hear this? This girl is mad!" Amma lifted her trembling hands. "I am not mad," she said. "I heard with my own ears." Kamso stepped closer. "Amma, speak clearly," he said gently. "What did you hear? When?" Amma swallowed a lump in her throat. "This morning, a green parrot came to me," she said. The hall went silent. A few elders frowned. "A parrot?" one muttered. Amma continued quickly. "It spoke like a human, in my mind. It said Queen Selma is poisoning the chief. It said I must save him before moonrise on the 7th day." Many people gasped again. Some elders shook their heads. "Spirits speak to servants now. Is this a trick?" Selma raised both hands. "You see," she cried, "she is dreaming. She is saying rubbish because a bird landed near her." Amma pointed upward. "The parrot is here!" All heads turned to the beam. The parrot stood tall, eyes sharp. It screeched once, not like a bird, but like a warning. "Quack!" The sound made the hall shiver. Prince Kamso felt his skin prickle. He had seen this parrot flying around the palace these last hours. He did not understand it, but he could not ignore it. Amma hurried on. The parrot led me to Queen Selma's chamber. I hid near the door. I heard her and Buraka talking about poison and the vault under the palace. Buraka smiled coldly. Liar, he said. Amma's voice rose. I heard you say, tomorrow night we finish it. I heard you say, when he dies, the vault opens. The crowd turned to Buraka. Some people stepped back. Selma's face tightened for a tiny second. Then she cried again, shaking her head. My chief, Selma pleaded, this girl wants to destroy me. Maybe she is jealous because I am queen. Maybe she wants your son and she thinks she can push me away. Amma flinched. Her cheeks burned with shame. Kamso's eyes widened. What are you saying? He snapped. Selma sobbed. Is it not true? She asked softly, innocent as a dove. Amma follows you like a shadow. She looks at you with hungry eyes. She wants to climb above her place. Amma wanted the ground to open and swallow her, but she forced herself to breathe. My chief, she said, voice shaking but steady, this is not about me. This is about your life. She reached for her waist. One guard took my pouch. It has proof. The guard who had searched her earlier stepped forward and opened the pouch carefully. Inside was a folded cloth stained with palm wine. Beside it were bitter leaves and a small root. The guard sniffed the cloth. He said, It smells sharp. Prince Kamso turned to Healer Sali, who stood among the elders. Father, refused your help, but now I ask you, examine this cloth. Examine my father. Tell us the truth. Healer Sali bowed and took the cloth. He sniffed it once. His face changed. He sniffed again. His brow furrowed. Then he walked to Chief Dumba and gently lifted the chief's eyelids, checked his tongue, and placed a hand on his chest. The hall was silent. Even Selma stopped crying. Healer Sali stepped back slowly. My chief, he said, voice heavy, the cloth carries poison. And your body carries the same poison. Someone has been feeding you venom in small doses. The court exploded. No! Who would dare? This is wickedness. Chief Dumba stared ahead like a man struck by a storm. He turned to Selma slowly. Selma, he whispered, is this true? Selma's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Her eyes darted. Her mask cracked. Then her face hardened like stone. Foolish old men, she hissed under her breath, so only those close could hear. You should have stayed in the grave with your first wife. Kamso froze. Selma, he shouted, what did you say? Selma's eyes blazed now, no sweetness left. She threw her head back and laughed, a sharp, ugly laugh that did not belong to the woman they had seen. Yes, she yelled, I poisoned him. So what? The vault belongs to those with courage to take it. The hall went dead quiet in shock. Chief Damba's eyes filled with tears of betrayal. Why? He breathed. I gave you honor. I gave you my home. Selma sneered. Honor does not feed hunger, she spat. Gold does. Before anyone could move, Selma reached into her belt and threw a small black powder on the floor. A thick smoke burst up like a dark cloud. People coughed, guards shouted, torches shook. In that confusion, Selma ran. She ran toward the west corridor that led to the hidden stair down to the vault. Baroka shook off his guards and lunged after her. Selma! Kamso roared. Stop! Kamso and 3 guards chased. Amma ran too, her bare foot slapping the clay floor. The parrot launched from the beam and flew ahead, leading them through turns like it already knew the way. They raced down a narrow stair that smelled of damp earth. The air grew colder with every step. The torchlight flickered on walls carved with old symbols. At the bottom lay a massive door. It was the treasury vault. The door was dark stone with shining metal strips. Ancient marks were carved into it, waves, eyes, and spirals that glowed faintly when someone came close. Selma reached it first. She placed both hands on the door and began to chant words that were not normal words. Her voice sounded like wind mixed with anger. The symbols flared brighter. The air around them shook. Amma felt her ears ring. Kamzo lifted his spear. "Selma!" he shouted. "Move away from the door!" Selma turned with wild eyes. "You are too late," she snarled. "Your father's life is already weak. The lock is loosening." She dragged a small bottle from her gown and poured the last black drops onto the vault marks. The marks burned green. The ground trembled. Baroka laughed behind her. "Yes, open it!" The vault made a deep sound, grum, like a stone giant awakening. Selma grinned, but then the light changed. The green glow turned to gold. The symbols began to spin like living fire. A heavy wind blew from nowhere. Whispers rose in the air, old and many, like the voices of ancestors. Selma staggered back. "What is this?" she shouted. Kamso felt goosebumps on his arms. Amma clutched her pouch. The parrot fluttered down to Amma's shoulder and stared at Selma. Then a voice, not Selma's, not Baroka's, filled the tunnel. It was deep and calm. "Greed has no key here." Selma's face twisted. "No!" she screamed. "Open for me! I deserve this wealth!" The voice answered again like a drumbeat. "You deserve only what your heart carries." Selma ran forward, trying to push past the glowing symbols. The moment her foot crossed the vault line, the door roared. A flash of golden light burst out. The door slammed shut by itself. Boom! Selma screamed. Her body vanished into the vault as if the earth swallowed her. The marks cooled instantly. Silence fell. Baruka stared, shocked. "Selma!" he shouted. He rushed to the door and banged it with his fists. "Open! Open!" Nothing moved. The vault was sealed tighter than before. Baroka turned, rage blazing. "You!" he snarled at Kamso and Amma. "This is your fault." He pulled a dagger and lunged. Guards tackled him at once. Baroka fought like a trapped wild dog, but 3 spears at his throat stopped him. He spat on the ground. "Selma used me, but you will still pay." They chained him and dragged him up the stairs. Kamso stood still, breathing hard. Amma's knees felt weak. The parrot fluttered to Amma's shoulder. "She is trapped," Amma whispered, shaking. The parrot said nothing, but its eyes were calm. They hurried back to the court. Chief Dumba was now lying on a mat in the side chamber. His breathing was thin. Healer Saley and the palace women were preparing an antidote. Amma rushed in and dropped her herbs. "These can help," she cried. Healer Saley nodded quickly. "Yes, child. Bitter leaf cleans poison. Life bark wakes the blood." They crushed the herbs, mixed them with warm water, and poured it carefully into the chief's mouth. Kamso knelt beside his father. "Father, drink," he pleaded. "Please, stay with me." Chief Damba swallowed slowly. Minutes passed like hours. Then Damba coughed hard. His chest rose deeper. His eyelids fluttered. A slow breath filled his lungs. Color returned to his face like dawn returning to the sea. The whole chamber sighed. "Thank the ancestors," someone whispered. Kamso's eyes filled with tears. He took his father's hand tightly. Chief Dumba looked at him weakly, then turned to Amma. Amma, he said softly, you saved my life. Amma fell to her knees. My chief, I only did what was right. Kamso turned to Amma, shame and gratitude in his face. I doubted you. His voice broke. When Selma spoke against you, part of me hesitated. I am sorry. Amma's tears slipped down. I was afraid too, but I could not watch you lose your father. Kamso gently held her hand. You are brave, braver than many who wear crowns. Outside, the moon climbed high, round and bright. The parrot flew quietly out to the courtyard, and Amma and Kamsa followed. Under the moonlight, the parrot stood still. A soft glow rose from its feathers, green turning to gold. Amma and Kamso stepped back in awe. The parrot's body filled with light, and for a moment they saw the shape of a woman inside the glow, Queen Nakunya, smiling gently. Her voice came like warm wind. My son, she said to Kamso, I could not let darkness steal your father. Kamso cried openly now. Mother! Nakonya turned to Amma. You listened when others would not. Your heart is clean. Because of you, Lumora still stands. Amma bowed, shaking. My queen, thank you for trusting me. Nakonya smiled. A kingdom survives when the small and the great hold hands. Her light began to fade softly, like a lantern going out at peace. Kamso reached out. Mother, don't go! Nakonya's voice was gentle. I must, she said. My work here is done. Love will still watch you, even when eyes cannot see. She looked toward the palace chamber, where Damba rested. Tell Damba I forgave him for marrying again, she whispered. Tell him love is not a chain, it is a river. Then the golden light lifted into the sky like dust in sunlight. Only the green parrot remained for one last breath, and then it too became light and disappeared. Amma and Kamso stood quietly in the moonlit courtyard, their hearts full. Behind them, the palace was alive again, not with loud laughter yet, but with truth, and truth is the strongest drum. And deep under the palace, the vault stayed shut, holding Selma's greed like a warning to anyone who might come after her. Moral lesson. Greed and lies may look sweet at first, but they always bring destruction. Truth, courage, and a good heart can save a family, and even a whole kingdom. Never stay silent when you see wrong, because silence can help evil grow. If you enjoyed this African folktale fantasy, please like this video, share it with someone you love, and subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories from Lumora and beyond. Your support helps these stories live on.